Hey, my name's Storm. Over the next 30 to 60 minutes, I'm going to build completely from scratch this AI social content creation, publishing, and analytics systems. We're not going to use NAM. We're going to do this via Claude Code, Codex, building it with code, getting it hosted on a live website so that you or your team can actually use this. We could potentially build accounting-based systems into this. We're going to see how far we get, but we're going to just dive straight in. This person is looking for a production-ready AI social media system for an education brand. It should build an integrated system that can create, approve, schedule, publish, analyze, and improve social content across Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook. Now, I've actually built a similar system to this for an e-commerce client. It allows them to, it's more about the image generation part, obviously, but this is really adaptable to this kind of system. We're still going to build this from scratch, don't worry though. So, you can see here there was a way of generating multiple prompts for image generation across multiple models, various models that generate the prompts to then spread over to the multiple images. You could have 20, 30 images generated at once, and then a whole reviewing system that multiple team members could actually use to then promote these winners to the team that is relevant to actually get them live on the site, on the listicles, whatever they deem to actually, meta ads, whatever. So this is a system that's going to post on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook. It should use blah, 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 reliable, documented, of course. Take blog posts or approved source material as input. Generate platform-specific captions. Follow the approved brand voice. Generate supporting images and or short-form videos. Include an approval gate, so reviews. Schedule and publish content. Prevent duplicate posts. Log content, post actions, approval. So this is going to be based on a user-based system. Retry logic based on that, like there'll be the APIs. If there's any kind of rate limiting, flag comments or messages that require manual response, analytics. Okay, so it's a two-part system, or more than two-part really. It's actually going to be quite a big system. You've got the system is obviously you're going to need an individual system for each platform. You're going to need the reviewing system. You're going to need the deduplication and retrying system in the back end. You're going to have a whole individual separate system that's going to be more about competitor analysis, data analysis, and being able to reuse competitor posts and replugging it back into the first system. Stack we won't care about. We'll come up with this ourselves to make sure it's as optimal as possible. Then this is more just how they want this handed over. So let's copy all of this just to get the main content. Yep, okay. And then I just want to bring this in here just to go over top level again. I wish this formatted it a lot nicer. Okay, so this is just the 5 platforms that we want. That's no problem. So we're going to need to have an individual kind of drop down in a menu that showcases how each generating the content of each generation would look like. I've actually built a system that recreates the LinkedIn actual posting UI that you would actually use when you're actually posting on LinkedIn, and just a really convenient way of previewing what you're actually going to post, because sometimes a big part of posting on these systems is obviously you'll have the actual post, but one thing to keep in mind is that when someone's scrolling and you've got a lot of text in a post, especially on LinkedIn, you'll only see up to a certain point, and then you'll have like a more button. You may have an image embedded underneath, which you obviously want to make sure that is going to catch people's attention, but you want to make sure that the text within the section, what we'll call above the fold for this case, is going to actually hook the user on. And if a user who is generating this content doesn't understand where that actually lives, where that is actually terminated, they could be writing content that's not actually going to be seen in that first hook and completely mess up the entire like hook rate of that post, right? So one thing to keep in mind on all of these platforms, because it's going to be relevant to all of them. We don't need to care about the way we're going to use this. We care about the required features. So this is going to be the source input. It's be nice if, and I'm assuming they mean it this way, where this plugs into every single one of these. So it's going to be more like this, right? You're going to have the blog post. It's going to plug into Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook. And then we want it to generate platform-specific captions and hooks, hashtags, CTAs. It's going to need to follow the brand voice. That's a tiny arrow. We're not making any bigger. No, that's the biggest arrow. Okay, I'm going to draw it instead. Yep, these are all going to then need to probably go into one more like this. Generate the platform-specific captions, but we need to make sure that they're all following a guideline system, which is going to need to be in the back end. And then this is also going to need to generate images. It'll be an approval gate, and then the scheduling, publishing. And then this again is more of the backend system that's going to be working on. So this will then go into the approval and then into scheduling. This will be the secondary system. We'll see if we have time to do this. I may need to split this up into 2 videos, but you're almost going to have a whole individual system that is on a continuous kind of loop every 24 hours, analyzing competitors' videos, whether if that's manually searching YouTube to see what's performing well, or a set amount of channels that we're tracking in a sense for this system. So there's a question mark here of that one. That's fine once we know what it is. That's fine once we know what it is. That's fine once we know what it is. That's fine. So this will need to kind of go all the way back into here. So we're almost going to need to have 2 sections. We're going to have section 1, which is a manual input, and section 2, which is almost a bank of library of potential candidates from competitor analysis. And then an automated monthly report. That's fine. That's part of the backend. Okay, let's figure out how we're going to give a prompt to Claude Design, because we'll keep using that because it's quite handy. We're going to switch to our favorite model, Luna Max. Now I'm going to put this on low first because, and I'll explain why. I want to understand. I just want a prompt to give to Claude Design right now, right? I want to have that cooking in the background, thinking about how the interface will look and plug into each other. So we're going to use our Aquaflow, our best friend. Oh, that's not what I meant to do. I need a prompt that I can give to Claude Design that is going to give me the general UI and workflow of every single one of these windows. We need to consider a couple of things. Oh, I accidentally cut it out. Let's get this ready before we do that again. I need a prompt that I can give to Claude Design that is going to outline all of the different windows of this workflow. We need to consider a couple of things. This is split into kind of 2 systems. You've got system 1, which is actually the content generation. You've got system 2, which is, or part 1.2, which is actually going to be walking them through the picking of the platforms that they want to post on from this blog post. 1.3, which is actually generating the specific platform specific captions, hooks, CTAs, images. 1.4, which is actually the approval gate. So this will need to be an external system, a different button on the page that other users can click on and see all of the pieces of content per blog or per topic that can be approved, denied, etc. And then the final section is more of like a calendar view that will showcase when each section is scheduled to run. The second system, which plugs into this but is more independent, is the analytics and optimization system. This system will be 2 parts. One is pure data analysis across the content that's being produced, but the second one is a public competitor analyzer that will run probably every 24 hours, where the team will actually input a set list of competitors that the system will continuously scrape and process. This will then be plugged into the first window we spoke about, where currently they can take blog post or approve source material as input. And it's really that second part there, the source material as input. So you will need to have a section where you either just input a URL or a section that has actually approved source material from the competitor scraper system. So we're going to give it that. It's going to give us a prompt that we give to Claude Code, or Claude Design, should I say. Let's get Claude Design up. And then while it's doing that, I'm going to get another one up, but we're going to put it to max and fast. We're going to grab this entire section again, and then we're going to paste it into here and put our dashes. We're currently designing the front end of this using Claude Design, but I want to start building out the back end and the demo data to show that this is running. It's going to be a multi-window system and also probably multiple users. Again, we don't have to build in the actual user access systems yet. It can be a simple toggle somewhere at the top in a kind of debug menu that will allow the client to understand how this system will function with different users. I'm going to give you the prompt I gave to generate the design prompts because it contains all the context of how this system will actually run. And then we're going to actually just I'm going to send that so it makes a message, and then wow, there's an extensive prompt. It'd be nice to see what it actually does. And then I'm just going to grab this one I'm going to cancel that, and then I'm going to send that one so it's got the context of that as well. I'm then going to grab this entire prompt. I think it has a copy button at the top actually, which would be a lot easier. It does, but I've got it now. We're going to switch back to Claude Design, and we're just going to send that. And then we have both cooking, and we're going to wait for a bit to see what our minions cook up for us. Okay, so it looks like we've got our Claude Design form. Depth versus breadth, 20 screens of full fidelity. I'm surprised it's split it up into 10. Let's do 8 to 10 high fidelity. Which screens must be the strongest? Now let's do all 20. We've got AI, right? We want to build the full thing. Let's see how long it takes at least, and we can decide once the framework is built out what we actually plug in. Analytics, monthly report, generation, workspace. It's probably going to be that. Or we could pick multiple. Approval queue calendar. I'm going to focus on the front system because the back end system about the competitor analysis, that's one that's probably going to take up the most time because you need to consider all of the AI systems and prompting that you have to identify the correct data and score the correct data to actually plug it into the system and actually make it run right. So I'm going to leave that more into kind of like what would be a phase 2. Because if I was probably proposing this to this client as well, I'd split those 2 phases there. You have the phase 1, which is pure just giving a URL to create the content. Phase 2 is the competitor analysis, logging, feeding back into the system. Whose brand? We don't know. Just mock up the data. Brand. Product names using the UI. Yeah, Signal, I like that. Which interactions should actually work? Nav between screens, platform selection, tabs, platform editor, approve, reject, calendar, drag, drop, filters on libraries. I'm just going to tick them all. Maybe not that one. We don't need that. State toggles. Yeah. Well, we'll leave that off for now. We don't really need that. This is for a prospective client and a sales demo. I agree. And we're going to send the answer. We're going to let that cook. Let's see what the main AI is doing. Okay. So it's figuring out the back end. I'm just going to say, remember, this is purely the back end I want you to focus on right now. Don't focus too much on like what the UI and the functionality will look at there. We need to consider scrapers that we're going to use, AI that we're going to use to generate the content, and also AI image generation tools to generate thumbnails, carousels, reels, etc. Just so it doesn't get too hung up on the front end because it looks like it might have been doing that. Yeah, we're just going to wait to see what they both come up with now. So it looks like Claude Design is finished, and it looks like the actual backend system, that took about 25 minutes, but it was probably processing quite a lot. I want to see what's clickable. Okay, it's nice. It's made every window clickable so we can look through everything. It's also done the analytics. I wasn't expecting it to. And then we've got the admin section. So yeah, this is kind of how I envisioned it. You'd have the panel on the left, typically how these dashboards work. You have a login system, which you see who's logged in at the bottom. You start off with the dashboard, which is a good overview. I like this bar system here. It's kind of nice to see the progress of whatever system is running. Maybe they'll have concurrent systems running, or concurrent items running, like in terms of going through the entire process. We may want to change. Maybe there's multiple of these, or it's just a one generic overview of how many are in each stage. Don't know yet. Something to explore. We've got our sources, which I'm guessing these are manual links. We won't use the competitor one yet. Create content, which will be... So one thing I'll probably adjust here is rather than every single step being on the left panel, it will be more like you start a run, and within that run, you get to see every single step. And so it'll be more project or like run based or topic based rather than every single step has its own window, but at least we can preview what the windows are going to look like here. So starting with the sourcing, that looks fine. You have a section, you paste the URL. This is what will happen after. You select which platforms you want to generate the content for. It probably has some notes here based around what we want to do with this content. Then we have a queue system. So this will be independent. This will be nice. So we can actually see what's going on in the back end, what's being processed. The content editor. So this will be, once it's generated, we'll have these different tabs. I like that. I like the queue quality check system as well. We mainly have to do this it will have to update per platform, which is fine. So this is Instagram, caption, preview, copy for the carousels. Yep. LinkedIn, that's going to be just one post. Yep. Probably want an image generator for LinkedIn as well. TikTok and YouTube will obviously be harder. I don't know how, again, the client wants to do this, whether they want to record content to put into this or they want AI generated content. Either one's doable. Facebook, again, not sure. Maybe it's just be one generated piece of content that can be reused, but they kind of, I don't know if they outlined this. I don't think they did. It might be a case of just generating a brief to make a video manually, right? but I can't exactly identify how they want this done. So we're going to make some assumptions. It's fine. The media studio, not sure what that is in part of this process yet. The approval queue, again, this will be a separate panel rather than integrated. You have the calendar, which we'll get to see when things are scheduled, which is great. Publishing activity, that's history. And this will be a automated response system, which will probably be in a separate phase as well. Okay. So I like this style, I like the colors, and the pages all look individually good. A couple things, I want to make sure we're maximizing the content within each page. Right now, there's a big gap on the right. Gap underneath, that's fine. We can just add when there's different panels to add, but it's mainly the gap on the right on each page. Remove the any and healthy on the top right. And rather than these pages being individual tabs on the left, I want it to be like a top level dashboard. And then rather than sources, let's call it posts. And then this will contain each post that goes through the entire sequence as a series of steps. So rather than all of the series of steps being on the left panel, you'll click in a post and you'll see all of the steps along the top of the page. Similar to how we've got it displayed in the dashboard with the example in flights, but that will be on the top part of the page where the user gets to see what stage they are on within that post. The sources page will just be, again, a post page, and they can see all of the posts there, what stage each one is on, and kind of the status of it and actions. We can keep the analytics, they look good, but and admin, that's fine. But let's just focus on those changes in the content side of things. I'm going to let it do that, and then we're going to read what our main AI has done. Focused backend, implemented URL source ingestion, structured AI content generation, image and media rendering, competitor collection, analytics, publishing notifications. Can you explain how you've done the source ingestion? Like, explain each step and the tools that you've actually used, whether you're using what you're using for the image generation tools, what you're using for the scraping, and what you're using for the AI text generation. Again, because I've got all of these systems probably already connected in previous projects that I've done, my AI agents have in their context, in their memory, all of these tools already preloaded. So I want to just break it down for you, and then I can guide you through how you would actually do this for the first time for each one. But again, if you ask this, it's going to do it for you. Like, it will help guide you through each individual step, no problem. This is how I did it when I started. No technical ability. It's going to have the capabilities to do this. So we're going to wait for what these two run. We're going to see if we can watch any updates coming. It'll probably take a bit, so we're going to wait for these to go and then check back on it in a couple of minutes. And so again, click the link. It takes you directly to the place. We're going to make a new key. We're going to name it what it said. Pulse dashboard local, default project. I'm going to hit create key. I'm going to move it off so you don't see the actual key. And you just, exact same thing. We go into the env local. I already closed it, so I'm just going to open the .env local file in Notepad for me again. And I'm going to do the exact same thing. It tells you the format to put it in. It's actually specifying the model here, so we can do that as well. That's where it's deciding to put it. Sure. For the MVP, it doesn't matter. So it's just opened up the Notepad for me here, so you can see. All I'm going to do is, I've got my key. I'm just going to put, I'm going to put, you can see the letters in, and then I'm going to just copy that into the Notepad. One thing I've noticed is saying 5.4. So for whatever reason, it's grabbed onto the older model. So I'm going to say I've saved it in, but you've selected GPT 5.4. Make sure you use 5.6 Luna, because Luna is cheap and it's the latest model, a series of models in the latest series of models. I'm using it to build this, so we're going to make sure it uses that. And then while it's doing that, we're just going to have another look over what it's made and see if there's anything else that we can change. So obviously we can't use this yet because the AI key is probably not loaded in yet, but I think, yeah, for an MVP, this is basically everything. We're going to go back to the overview. So it's got detailed performance and competitive data for the internal dashboard. Client is shareable, and then the AI analysis of the changes. So, I mean, I consider that, I think this is more than enough for an MVP. Obviously, if we're talking with the client, we can really refine it and take it further, but this is going to be the first step. Obviously, once we have access to the Google accounts, we'll use the Google as an MCP connection or a CLI connection. That I'm pretty sure it has both. to actually help me do all of the connections. I will not be going in manually unless there's a specific permissions thing I need to set up. But again, I'm not an expert in the Google API backend. I've got experience in doing it now, but even when I started, I didn't have to consult any videos. I didn't have to hire someone to do it for me. I just told AI to guide me through it. I told it to open up the direct URLs to the pages, and it just does it. It's more capable than you think, and I'll keep reiterating that. Okay, so you can see it's going to be switching both the local environment and the default to that 5.6 Luna, which is what we're using now. And I need to add credits. Okay, so obviously that's something that it can't do. So I'm going to go back onto here. I'm going to go to, I'm just going to add some credits at $5. Okay, I've added $5 as you can see here. So I'm going to say, okay, I've added $5. Can you test that you can connect to the API correctly now? And then I need you to find some companies to use as the Appify scraper targets so we can actually prove that the connection is working and populating the database. And then I will, once that's all ready, I'll generate an AI analysis in the dashboard. And we're in the kind of final stretch now, other than obviously the Google connection, but we have Appify connected. It's going to figure out the, I think it already did figure out what appropriate scrapers to use. If not, we'll do that again. And then it's going to plug it into the data and we'll generate the analysis to show that the AI generation part is working. And I'd be happy for that for a V1 MVP to at least show to the client. One thing to keep in mind, just to give a bit of context of what that is, it's the Google Cloud CLI. This is what you give to your agent to be able to connect to all of the back-end complicated stuff of Google. It will handle about 95% of it. There's 5% where you need to do a bit of setting up, permissions, etc. But once you've done that, this will handle all of the complicated stuff. So going back to the agent, it looks like it's still connecting to some generic UK services to make sure that the Appify connection is all connected. And one thing to consider, when obviously this is the MVP, so we don't need to do this yet, but one thing you need to consider is, where is my Excalibur? There it is. When you're building this out fully in terms of, exit that, I don't want that, I want the full panel. When you're building this out fully, you obviously will have a section that is for the clients. This is kind of independent. You'll have a section for the admin, or like, let's say the organization admin of the marketing company. And then you also have a third view, which is the, let's say, employee number one, but you may also have multiple views for different employees. So employee number two may have a different, employee one might see something else, employee two might see something else, the org admin will see everything, and then the client will just see the basic summaries of the analysis. But it all connects into the same original Superbase, right? And this is kind of like simplifying how the infrastructure actually works of these systems. And so the client will plug into only a specific part of the data of the database. The org admin will plug into another and we'll see most of it. The employee one, again, will plug in, and employee two will plug in and only see certain parts of it. And this is where you'll have kind of like, if you use any typical software that has logins and you can invite your team members, it's that kind of interface where your org admin, because you may, if you're, let's say the owner, the founder, or the COO of the business who's building this internal tool, you need to consider your managers underneath you who will be managing the employees won't be using Claude Code to make changes to the system. You're, as the developer, or you pass this on to a developer, they're going to want to have access to the code to do all of the intricate modifications. When it comes to a situation where, let's say, someone needs to change the name of a client or add a client, they obviously can't go into, your employee who usually does this can't go into Claude Code, which has full access to the entire system, and say, oh, can you add this as a new client? You could build further down the line, build like an agent that your team can communicate to do certain things. But again, you have the issue of, okay, if the agent has the full access to the database and you're giving it to employee one, which usually only sees a certain part, what's the point of giving them a restriction if they have full access to the system, right? And so you then need to start considering how you set up the certain interfaces, which are maybe admin only, to be able to control the management of the system without having access to the code, without having access to an AI agent that has access to the code, right? And this is where MVPs nowadays can be spun up so quickly. Like you see, I've done this in under an hour, and I'm explaining. Like if I was just doing this on the side without any of like the tutorial part or the setup, I could get this fully set up in probably under 20 minutes. That part is really quick to do now, especially as an MVP. But when it comes to actually fully connected to the systems, thinking about the backend, understanding how the logins should work, understanding how the access to work should work, all of the security measures need to be taken place as this is going to be live on the internet. That's where 90% of 98% of the work is, right? You can do the 2%, which looks like 98%. And then when it comes to the last 2%, that's when you actually take up most of the time, right? And that's the illusion that a lot of people that I speak to fall into the trap of as a founder or as someone in a company. You think you can build these systems really quickly, you spin them up in a day or two, and then slowly over time, they start to really just eat into every single spare time. You're fixing bugs, you're working out issues, you're figuring out how to modify the system, and then you'll get to a point where you'll need to make a change in either the database or the system. And this is a big part about kind of building out these systems. You might have built a V1 of this entire system, right? You have people in your team or your employees or your co-workers using it, and there is tons of data that has slowly been adding to the database over the course of maybe a week, 2 weeks, a month, however long you're using it. Suddenly you need to change something in the interface in the system for your client that requires data to be modified, maybe about the client. Maybe you need to link something up to that client, which is another data point. That means modifying the database. Now, the agents are usually pretty good at this, but you need to be careful at that point that you're not going to do something that erases data, especially if this is client facing and your clients are using this or your team are using it. You've got to be careful that when you make major changes to the interface, which causes the database to need to be updated, you're not going to have effects that are going to clear data, remove data, or have massive gaps in data. You need to figure out, okay, do I need to backfill a bunch of data to make the new interface that I've made actually congruent with the new user experience? And so these are the things that when you're a first-time vibe coder building up a dashboard, it's very easy, or it's pretty much guaranteed that you won't think about it. You won't even know about it. It's just you don't know what you don't know. And that's when the compounding effects of a badly vibe coded tool can really start to then have a detrimental effect on the operations of the efficiencies of the business. Something to keep in mind. So it looks like Apify returned a complete data set, local Superbase recorded the run, and the rows were inserted for that client. So that's good. That's running. Let's confirm that the Apify connections are there. It's using the appropriate ones for gathering, I think. Did it specify what it was gathering? Doesn't look like it, but while it's doing, we can just see directly on Apify. If we go to runs, what has it actually scraped? Google search results. So this is going to be looking, I'm assuming, where it actually ranks on a search result. Again, you don't really need to worry about this too much. You can just talk to your agent to help you digest the information. But yeah, I'm guessing it's just searched. You can see, yeah, what position it is in. So we're searching keywords and showing what actually searches, what position things are being listed at. So again, this could be for competitor. This might be linking into like the share of voice, right? Again, we don't know what this exactly means, but there's potential that it can like be gathering all of this data. And as we gather this data over time in this interface, once this is fully built out, you have some really valuable data actually that is really sometimes hard to get out in public APIs. And so that's why it's really important that if you're building systems like this, you have databases that are set up appropriately to collect the data, that is logged appropriately for any kind of future additional change you may want in the future, but you don't know about yet. So we're going to wait for that to just finish cooking, make sure that it's all connected, and then the last thing to test after this will be the AI generation in the so we're going to make sure that it actually live generates these AI summaries of each section. So looks like it is confirmed both are live and working. We're going to go in, we're going to hit refresh. Okay, you can see, yeah, it's scraped it. So this is the live SERP observations. It's showing the ranking of all of the websites, and it's actually made them clickable, which is quite nice. We may do some formatting changes because there's a lot of just wasted space here, and in a dashboard view, you want to make sure that you're trying to be as efficient as possible with the spacing without overloading the user. But we know it's connected. Last thing I'm going to do is click generate analysis, and we're going to see if it fully connects to everything here. Okay, that's good. but it's one thing we're seeing here, and you'll see this probably quite common. It's adding asterisks, and this is called markdown formatting. We just need to ask the AI to fix it. And if you don't know if you forget what it means, just say there's text. So in the AI summary at the top, when I click generate, can you fix it? And what it's basically going to do is going to fix it so it actually formats that into bold. But again, I don't like why it's got like such big spacing on the right. Doesn't really make sense. But let's read what it says while it does that anyway. The synthetic dashboard reports July organic sessions are blah, 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 da, 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 da. However, query and ranking data on plumbing terms, while the client is a Leeds Dental Studio, the funnel shows session. So this is just where it's got confused because we've got actual data on a client using the Apify scrapes, but what we've actually done, the mock data is actually different. So that's just us setting up the MVP wrong, but it's doing the analysis fine. One thing I'm going to do here, again, this is where you start to really talk to the clients to figure this out, but just what I would like to do is, again, I'm going to log that in. Okay, there's a big blank white space to the right of the AI performance analysis text. Can we fix that? And can we actually highlight the figures inside the generated text to be green when positive, gray when averaged, and red when negative? You can put a little like box around the text, tint the text, and make it a bit bolder. Just nice formatting. It's a dashboard. You want it to be easily digestible. And so I'm just doing little tweaks to make it highlight the key metrics, key KPIs that a user might actually want to be seeing, noticing when they're kind of glazing over kind of all of this information day to day throughout the day, etc. I think what I would also do is just move these key metrics that we see here up above the AI performance analysis. And then obviously it's not actually generating these unless these are a one-time thing. So I'm just going to ask it to also add that. Also, even though we've got the analysis at the top, I still want the AI analysis on each individual card in the overview. We currently have it for some, but not all of them. But I want the generate button to generate a little comment on each specific card within the whole overview as well. And then we're going to let that cook and wait for it to finish. Looks like it's done. Let's go back to it and confirm. I'm going to hit refresh. And I'm going to hit generate analysis. And again, we're making this a button you have to press purely for the MVP. In the real system, this will be automated. Okay, we run into our first error. OpenAI returned no analysis set. So I'm just going to say, I got this error when pressing the generate button. This is good. I thought we were going to run this without any errors. See, can I just hit that again? Maybe it'll work the second time, which will give us another point of information. Okay, so that actually worked this time. And you can see it's highlighting the text. I don't like the green background it's put over the entire thing. But it's doing what I want in a better stage. You can see AI read. It's doubling it up. I'm guessing it didn't consider this original one from the design. It looks like it's cutting it off for some of them. It's not really doing it exactly how I wanted. So I'm going to say, okay, I ran it a second time and it seemed to have worked. I'm also noticing that you're not using the design of the AI comments that are currently on there. You've added a new one. Let's use the old designs and make sure each one of these generated sentences or 2 sentences are actually explaining to the user what's going on versus just kind of reading the text or reading the graphs to them. Like give a bit more detail and nuance into the SEO improvements or decline. Again, someone who's an expert in SEO may be able to articulate what they want better, but I'm making assumptions here based on knowing nothing about the client, right? So you'll have to forgive me for that, but this is kind of the process that you would go through when you're kind of refining these systems. And I'm also going to say for the top level AI performance analysis, I don't like that overall green box that you've put behind the 3 lines. And can you still keep the bold on the first word, the readout opportunity priority? And we're going to let that cook. But to be honest, at this point, it's just like minute design changes I'm making, right? The system's here. We've got the database set up in Docker locally. It's all ready. We've got the AI connected. We've got Apify connected. The last thing to do would be to connect Google Cloud into the actual account that is running these in the marketing agency. But this will cover basically all of it. You'll obviously have the client dashboard, which would, again, you just carry on doing what we're doing. You generate with AI. Generate the AI responses. You might refine how it's actually wording it. You might need to simplify it. You might want to go in more detail. But again, the system is in place for you to make these tweaks. The database is set up and linked to everything for you to make these tweaks. The final thing is getting this live. Now, there's loads of different services that do this. I use Vercel. It connects up really well. And again, you make an account Vercel, you go on Vercel, you make an account, and you connect it via, you ask your AI, whatever one you're using, connect to the Vercel CLI or MZP. You can ask it which one is going to be the best for your scenario. Exact same situation. You put the key in the .env file, and it can make the project for you. It'll set the project up. It will be for free. Vercel's really good with their free packages, where you can just set them up completely for free and just get going straight off the get-go. It just works. It's clean, it's easy, and the AI is so good that they know how to connect to it without much fuss. Obviously, you then need to start, when you get into actually making this really live for people to use, clients to use, you need to start looking into the security. All your .env files, they need to live on Vercel, and what they call it secrets. Your AI will know this. Your AI know how to upload that .env file into the secrets for you, so you won't have to do anything on the security side of things without worrying about like if you're doing it wrong or not. The AI will handle it for you. But I think we're pretty much there for the MVP. I would probably make the final design tweaks and get this sent to the client to review. Ask them what their thoughts are. Do they like the design? Do they like the metrics? Obviously, if we were building this out for a real client, we would have gone through our entire 3-stage process to get before we even got to this point, which is diagnostics, mapping, and the company command center. We probably exclude that last bit, but the main thing is the diagnostics and mapping. I want to know exactly how their business is currently running, what KPIs are important to them, what their team actually like employee stack is, so I know who is going to require what access to what parts, and actually mapping that all out so that when I'm trying to design the process, I have the actual process of how they do it currently completely mapped out, so I can translate that into an efficient system. Maybe I have a look at what they're currently using in terms of software, so I can try and copy the interfaces so they're not learning an entire new system, right? There's lots of nuances when it comes to just making sure that your team that you're currently using adapts to a new tool. That's sometimes a big thing in itself, let alone the actual capability. Even if the capabilities are really good, if no one wants to use it because they don't get it, or it's too complicated, or it's too messy, or the interface is ugly, it's a useless tool at the end of the day. But I think for what the Upwork post, what this client is asking for, that's basically what it would be, without any, obviously having a bit deeper conversation on how this is looking. If you have any questions of any of the issues, if you want to see anything going in more detail, signing up to maybe the services from scratch, signing in completely, making all the accounts from scratch, doing all the API connections from scratch, I'll show you the API keys if you want that, just to showcase the actual workflows. We could do that as well. Leave it in the comments, let me know. But I think that pretty much covers everything for this video. Again, comments down below if you want anything else. I'm going to try and doing these one a day. If you have something that you want built and you don't know it, leave it in the comments. I'll do one of that. Just put as much detail as you can and we'll get it built on a video. Cheers. So it's giving out the output. One thing I've noticed is I did the complex one. I used my non-coder skill, which if you don't know, it's basically a prompt that says, explain this all to me as a non-coder with no context, heavily simplifies it. And it's guiding us through the process now. So now the user, they're calling Maya, would provide the URL. The system first checks that it's a valid web address and checks whether it's already been added. So that's nice. It already checks if it's already in the system and will not go ahead. It will just link to the appropriate post if it's already been done. Perfect. Then it starts writing the content. This is just using AI. You can use any model for this, no problem. For content, I lean more towards the Claude models, but they can be expensive. So you may want to experiment based on the output that you're happy with. Then it creates the visual. It's using OpenAI's image generation. Now it's using my subscription, which you can't do if you're building out a platform that your team is going to use. And just to briefly explain why, just to make it clear. So there's 2 ways you can connect to AI when you're using it. One is called subscription, or more officially OAuth. And this is basically what you pay for in your monthly subscription. You have X amount of usage included when you're using stuff like Codex or Gemini. There's also image generation included in that. If you're using it for anything outside of your own personal use, you'll need to use the direct API. This is, you pay per token, which means you pay per every single bit of use. This includes images or for other models, video, etc. And so when you're building internally, if you're building a tool just for yourself that only you are going to run, you can pretty much just stick to your subscription and OAuth, and you can just ask the AI, use my OAuth for this, help me set it up, and it will guide you through actually linking your account to your internal system for you to run without any extra costs. But if this is a system that is going to be on a web page that you and your team are going to use collectively, you'll need to use the API. This is just part of like the fair usage policies that they have in these services. And so by doing the API route, you're going to have to then manually link this up. But again, we'll ask the AI to help set it up. I've already got it set up. I'm going to make it pretend that we haven't, just so I can show you how we'll do it. But I just need to let it know first. So we're going to say, for the image and AI text generation, we need to make sure that we're using the actual API connection. Let's use OpenAI for now to keep it all in one place, but help me set up the API key that you need to get this fully generating both images and text. We're going to send that off. Let's check on Claude Design. So it says it's fixed. So let's go to post. Nice. So we can see this is really nice. I like this stage graphic that it's got. It shows the status of each of them. Let's click on one. Perfect. So we see each step and it shows actually the individual steps within. I really like that. Let's go back to each one so we can see. So you start with the source. Technically, we already would have had the source by now. So I'm going to just do what we usually do. So looking through on the post page, when I click onto a post, it disappears the highlight of the post button on the left, so it can be confusing where we're at. Secondly, if we go back to the source step of the post system, it's showing all of the other posts. Technically, that shouldn't be there. When the user adds a URL directly from the post page, that will be kind of locked in at that point. It goes straight to the brief and platforms as the first step. We can have somewhere on the brief and platforms the URL that user pasted, but it just makes sure that this entire sequence is all within one post and it's not going to confuse the user. Put that in there for now. Generation, that's nice. I like the kind of sequence it's going for there. Content, it's going to then go to that to show all of the generated content in all the different platforms. I like that. Assets, I'm guessing, just shows the images. If we're generating images or videos, that's fine. And then approval per platform, I think that's pretty good as well. So, but then one thing we want to do is a user might not want to generate for a platform. And so rather than wasting all that time generating content for a platform they will never use, we'll want to put that we've already got it there. So we need to make sure that actually that's kind of in place there. Secondly, in the brief and platform step, the user can tick the platforms, but then on the approval page, we're still approving different platforms. And it looks like we're also generating for every single one. So we need to make sure that if the user selects only a limited amount of platforms, every step after that reflects the platform selected. So example, Instagram and LinkedIn is selected. We're only going to show the Instagram and LinkedIn tab on the content page, the assets page, and the approval page, and the schedule page. The approval page as is fine as well. I don't mind that. Schedule page looks good. And then it's obviously automating into the published and then the performance once it's all live. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to send that and let that cook. We'll go back to the AI to see what it's doing. Okay, so it's looking like so it's found OpenAI. Okay, I don't want to do that. Okay, guide me through the OpenAI key setup from scratch, just for the example of this build, as I'm showcasing this to an audience. We're just going to send that. If you obviously already got this set up, you already have API keys connected in your whatever AI you're using, and it's in its memory or your global environment file, you don't need to worry about this. You just carry on as you are. This is more if you haven't set this up before. I just want to make sure that it's all clear what you actually have to do. Here we go. So again, it's going to ask us to open the OpenAI API keys page. I'm going to just move this off to make sure I'm not leaking any sensitive key data. No, it looks okay. And so you'll go onto a page, you'll get onto the page, ask you to create a new key. You put the key in here, you put the name in here, you press create secret key. It's going to give you a string of a long bunch of text and numbers. You'll then want to, it will say to add it to your env local. If you don't know where that is and where you're telling the agent to set up these files for you, you can just say open the .env.local file for me with the key templates pre-filled. Specify the actual tool that you're using. I'm going to do that. And then after this, I'm just going to tell it to use what it already has, just to save me making loads of different keys and potentially leaking my keys as well. So you can see here, it's opened this up. This is what it'll look like. You then, when you get the key, you'll be pasting it in here. You'll also want to probably modify the models it's using, because for whatever reason, it seems to always get these wrong as older models. So you'll put the key in here, which will be, it will look like SK dash loads of numbers and letters for OpenAI at least. You'll hit save, you'll close it. And then you'll say, okay, the file is saved, but I noticed that the models you've got selected are wrong. I want you to use GPT image 2 for the image generation and GPT 5.6 Luna for the text generation. And you'll send that. I'm going to just change it, obviously, because I have the API keys, so I'm going to let it know, but that's what you would do. Okay, the example is over now. Just use my existing keys slash OAuth, etc. just for the sake of this example. I mean, what I'll do actually, I'll make it use my API keys, just so we're getting an accurate build for this, for this demo video. I'm going to let it do that. We're going to again go back to the Claude design. It's still processing it, but you can see it started to actually action them. It's improved. It's removed the sourcing step, which is what I wanted. Approval queue, I think that's fine for now. Calendar, we can start to see what it'll look like. That's great. And I like what it's doing for these two as well. Comments and messages, this may not actually be possible based on API connections with these platforms, but we'll have to have a look. Again, a lot of the stuff that we build, it's an exploration process. You need to kind of just see what's possible and what isn't, and also what you kind of want to accept doing as a agency or as a client. Because some people are more comfortable with using more behind or under the table methods to automate these systems. Like for example, LinkedIn, they're really, really strict on what you're actually allowed to do in terms of automating on their platform. They really restrict you. There's ways around it using certain methods, like getting API keys directly from the networking tab in the browser, or just controlling an actual browser with AI navigation. But they're obviously against regulations, against the rules, and you can get your account banned. And so depending on how far you want to go with this kind of stuff, pretty much everything is automatable, but you obviously run risks with certain platforms. So it's just something to keep in mind. For something like this with LinkedIn commenting, I don't know if that's direct API access. It is possible, even if it isn't, but you may get your account banned or temporarily suspended or whatever. So it's entirely up to you and how you kind of want to take that. I think the best balance is a lot of these platforms can grab the comments. You can pre-generate the comments in the platform, and then you just have a final manual step where you copy and paste it. It keeps a human in the loop. They can make some final tweaks, and it just makes sure that you're keeping your account safe, especially if it's like a valuable lead generation part of your business, right? So really something just to keep in mind. I think I'm happy with how this looks now. I don't know if I want to spend much more time on it, because it's obviously as well, I could spend all day folks tweaking the designs, but for the sake of this video, we're just going to keep it here and probably really focus on this post automation system and not worry about the rest, because this is kind of the hardest part. Once that's done, all of these are pretty much easy to do. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to again click share. I'm going to download the project's HTML, standalone or projects archive, hit export. That's going to download it locally. And then I'm going to say, okay, the UI is done. It's in the latest file in my downloads folder. If you don't have your AI connected to your local desktop, which you should do for this kind of stuff, obviously be careful. There's a bunch of videos out there how to do this safely, so make sure you're taking precautions, but it knows where my downloads folder is, so I can just tell it. Otherwise, just drag the zip into the project and say the files are in the project folder now. But I'm going to carry on with this. It's in the latest file, my downloads folder. I want you to now plug this into the backend, make the tweaks that you need to do, but we're only going to really focus on the posts flow here. Don't worry about adding all of the automations to the other parts of the backend, like the competitor analysis, the I can't even talk about it now. Where did it go? Why is it cooking stuff? There we go. The competitor analysis, the admin panel, like the login features. Let's not worry about that. I purely want to focus on the posts flow, the calendar view, and the dashboard. Let's just really make sure that those three are functioning with the appropriate API connections, etc. And we're going to send that off. So we're now pretty much done with Claude Designer things. We're really going to focus on now plugging stuff in, getting it all working locally. Again, if you haven't watched my previous video, to get this system working locally, we're going to be using Docker and Supabase. It's basically the database that stores all of the data to allow this to run in the backend. It lets it run on your computer rather than paying for it to be running on the cloud. If we were going to actually get this live, we would then just be telling the agent to then publish this to our Supabase, publish this to Vercel, and it will get it running live on the cloud. Now, finally, one thing I don't think I mentioned or touched on the previous video, to control the versioning and to make sure that we're actually keeping backups of this. Every single developer uses GitHub. If you don't know what it is, it's basically a file versioning system for developers, and it allows developers to also work on the same documents at the same time without getting too complex. There's tons of videos that explain what it is and how it runs. I won't go into detail here. I might do a video in the future to explain it really simply. If you need that, leave it in a comment below. But ultimately, just think of it as a free online service that lets you back up your vibe coded tools, services, etc. All of the like Vercel, which is where we would actually host all of this to be live on a website for you and your team to use. It can link to the GitHub, and Vercel can also link to Supabase. And so all of these systems are very well known to kind of plug into each other, and all of the AIs and the latest models that you're most likely using will know how to do all of this. So again, you just ask it to guide you through it step by step. Let it know that you're not a developer, and it will make it a lot easier for you. So we're just going to wait for this to implement the UI into the actual backend. There's probably going to be a lot of stuff we have to fix and tweak, and it's probably going to take maybe another 10-15 minutes. So we're just going to wait for it to cook, and we're going to go from there. So it looks like it finished generating. It's plugged everything in probably as the best as it can. Again, one caveat, we're using Luna Max, so it's not the most intelligent model, but it's quick and it's efficient, and I can use it on the fast mode to get things going quicker. And if we were to use a smarter model, it may plug stuff in a bit easier, but it's also like I want to showcase how it actually runs through problems, and I don't want to be waiting here for 2 hours for this whole system to build for this demo, right? So it's a good way of showcasing how I would solve certain things. So you can see here it's changed the UI a bit. If we compare it to the original version, I don't like how it's changed some stuff. It's added icons, I don't mind that, but I don't like how it's changed the style of the kind of graphics here, the colors here. I'm not the biggest fan of, and this was one solid bar. Now it's individual, but I guess it's probably actually more accurate because we now have groupings of what's in what stage. So I guess I would keep it that way now that I'm thinking about it. Weird spacing here, but again, let's not worry too much about design. I want to really focus on the functionality. So if we go to the posts, we're missing on a lot of data here by looks. There we are. We've got source, platforms, current step, status. Source, platforms, stage, current step, status. So stage and current step are, I guess it's simpler, which I don't mind. And we could probably replace these with the actual icons, so it's probably not too bad. Status is fine. Okay, not too bad. It's darker. These are the demo versions, so it's shown. I don't like how I can't click them. Okay. So this interface was a lot better than this one. We don't actually have cards and we can't go back, which is a problem. So that's the main thing I want to fix. Everything else is okay so far. If I click on another one, it's showing. Okay, yeah, that's really the main thing. Okay, so couple things I want to tweak. For the posts page, when we show the platforms column, can we actually use the icons of each platform rather than these placeholder versions? Just grab them off the internet. Secondly, when we click into a post, I can't click on any of the steps at the top. They're not clickable. When looking at the previous version, they had clickable sections. Also, everything was a bit more dashboard style, where we had things in cards. They were maxed out in the kind of horizontal spacing, where right now it looks like we have padding on either side. And I want to make sure that we're just maximizing the amount of space that we're using here in these systems, at least horizontally. Again, when you're on the individual stages, if we're referencing different platforms, let's make sure we're using the actual logos there as well and not the placeholders. And I'm going to send that off. Yeah, we won't spend too much time on the design. I want to make sure that we can just select between different steps. And then from there, we're going to start plugging in. I'm going to delete all the placeholder data, and we're going to just make sure this actually runs through end to end with the live data. So we're just going to wait for that to finish working on that last step, and then we'll get to that bit. Looks like it's done. Let's see where we're at with the system. Give it a refresh, and let's just replace the platform placeholders with real logos. Added work in LinkedIn. Made the 7 post stages clickable. Expanded the dashboard of post layouts. Okay, yep, that's nice. That's nice and wide. Let's click on the post. These are clickable. Great. I don't know why it changes when we click on them. There's something to fix. I would actually reference the original. Okay, in the original design, this worked a lot nicer. Almost like an entire card to highlight all of the stages, and then individual cards or individual background highlights to show what stage the user is on, and then a bit more like text underneath to explain a bit more information about that relative step. Also, currently clicking on the steps in ours changes the bar to the halfway point in the actual step. And then finally, clicking between the steps adds a scroll bar, which shifts the entire contents of the page a little bit. Can we make sure that everything is consistent when clicking between steps with or without a scroll bar? So a couple annoying issues there. I think that's the last thing I'll change in design, hopefully, and that'll be it. And then we can move on to actually building out the features and the functionality. Well, it looks like that needs to be done as well. So I'm going to add that into it as well. I'm just going to add a screenshot of this as well. Reference for how the bar looks in the original design file. Make sure you make it match. And then I also want to see how so it looks like it's not keeping much of the design of the individual pages at all. And so what I'm going to do is probably just tell it to, it looks like you're missing out on a lot of the design choices on the individual stages within the post. Make sure you look at every individual stage, how the design looks, and match it exactly one-to-one. And I'm just going to give it screenshots just so it has some more context as well, just in case if it struggles to figure out what we're talking about from the actual files, but it should be able to figure it out. So we're going to give it that and we'll come back to it. So it looks like it's actually pulling in the appropriate, it's still processing in the background, but it looks like it's actually pulling in the individual post pages now. I don't think it understood or realized that they were even there in that first pass. And so this is looking way better, basically most of the way there for the interface now. I'm going to leave it there. There's going to be a couple odd issues, like the sidebar is scrolling with the interface rather than the actual one itself. It may fix that as it does it, but my next step is to kind of understand how this actual process is going to work. So if I hit new post, this looks nice. Choose the destinations. I'm going to, for the sake of this, do Instagram and LinkedIn. We'll leave TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook out just so we're not spending this. Make sure this video isn't 2 hours long. We just need to find a source example. I'm going to probably get it to just generate the data. Or actually, no, let's build the scraper. I think that'd be nice to build into the system. So now we need to think of an article. I'm going to just look for an article, random article now. So here's an article by IBM. It's just AI in business. So while that's processing, I'm going to make a new chat in here. What is our current system that we have in place to scrape page data to use as context for generating posts? I want to use this as the testing site that we'll use. We need to consider, like, if we're going to run into any issues with sites blocking us from scraping, maybe we can try just absolute bare bones manual system of just like grabbing the HTML file and then grabbing the data from there, and then we can move on to more external tools like paid page scrapers on Apify or Firecrawl. Now, what I'm basically asking for here is there's multiple ways, and I'll pull Excalidraw up to illustrate this. There's multiple ways that you can actually scrape a page. So obviously you have a website and you'll have maybe like you'll have the logo, you'll have the bar at the top, you'll have buttons up here, maybe you'll have a sidebar, especially for like stuff like articles where you have a bunch of different things going on. You'll have the main text in here. You'll maybe have an ad breaking it up, and then more text, and then maybe some more like links to other articles at the bottom, as well as like also the footer of the page, right, where you have all the kind of stuff in the footer. Now, when you're scraping data off of any page like this, you're going to run into a couple main issues. The first one is sometimes you just get blocked completely. So the easiest way of download, like, I guess, I'll write this as well. So there's 3 ways of grabbing data off a website. Step 1 is the easiest, and it's just downloading the HTML. What that looks like on here, if I just right click and inspect the page, as most people has done any kind of even really basic understanding of development stuff, every page is made with HTML. It's all just a bunch of really basic English readable code, and every element is broken up into different sections, right? The issue is obviously when you grab that, there is a ton of information that you just do not need, and so you run the risk of the AI basically grabbing the wrong data here. And so you need a system in place within the AI that is going to understand what's the actual relevant, and if I change my color, what the actual relevant piece of text are. So it's going to be the actual body copy. It needs to ignore everything on the sidebar. It needs to ignore the footer, ignore the buttons, ignore the ad, right? That's where this can get, like, it's the cheapest to run and it's usually the quickest, but you're going to have to basically build this up yourself. Step 2 is, or option 2 are page scrapers. They're specifically built scrapers that basically eliminate all of this for you and try to format the code or the text on the page in a nicer way for AI to use straight off the bat. Now, there's kind of 2 levels of this. You've got ones which are kind of like, again, on Apify, which are a bit more user made. So we don't want Facebook page, we want, okay, so you'll see here there's actual scrapers just to generate the HTML. And the other caveat to give on this is that sometimes pages will have systems and websites will have systems that just block you from doing this. So they'll detect that you have an AI or a bot trying to do this, and it just completely won't let you get access to it. And so the ways around this are like more complex proxy systems, which basically make the bot look like a human so it can actually get access to the HTML. These page scrapers kind of help you get around that by sorting all of that out for you and doing the actual specific extraction of information, right? So this is a good one, for example, website to markdown. So it's actually stripping the navigation, ads, footage, all the stuff I basically just said. It cuts all of that out for you. These are actually quite cheap to run as well if you do. So it's $2 per 1,000 results. So it's cents for each page, right? You have the more complex ones, which are, for example, like Firecrawl, which has it's basically the entire purpose of this service is to clean up data that you're trying to get from websites. So you can have basically, you can tell the system to give you specific formatting of data, which can sometimes be really handy, and it solves all of that like blocking system for you. They have really good complex systems that get around any kind of blocking system. So those are the multiple ways to think about it. We're going to start with the simplest and work our way down complexity, because if we can use the simplest solution, that's what we should do. And so let's see where we're at with this. Okay, so that's processing. Our other system is done here. Okay, so that's fully done. Let's give it a quick check. So we can see it's still got that issue with the scrolling, but that's a design issue I'm not too bothered about. So I'm really going to focus on like actually getting this running now. So we're going to go on posts, new post, and we're going to link it. Let's see if it's done anything already. I doubt it has. I'll be surprised if it has. Okay, so it's actually added it as an approved source. I'm going to do that. I'm going to hit generate content. Okay, so it's actually saying the source. So by me putting it in the individual chat, it's actually added it. But it looks like it's generating the selected platform variant. So we're going to see what it does. It may have already integrated some of these systems already based on the context we gave it at the start of the conversation. So we're going to see where it's got to by itself and slowly like help it to guide it to where we actually want it to be. Okay, so it looks like it just skipped straight to approval. Let's just have a click through. Okay, so it completed all of that. It's got content generated. Okay, so it's already generating images from our API connection. That's great. This is for LinkedIn. AI activity is not the same as the business value. A decent hook to start off with. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of tweaking to be done in terms of the copy. Whenever we build these out for clients in terms of content generation, we want to make sure we download as much content that they've manually typed as possible and run a good session of prompting, just generating a markdown file, text file, if you don't know what that means, of all of the intricacies and like nuances that make up how they write. We then give that to the AI to actually build this copy out. I won't waste time doing that. It's very simple to do. Again, you just ask AI to do it. It's going to run through it, no problem. Let's see what Instagram is. Again, it looks pretty similar. It's got carousel slide copies. It's actually generated the slides here. If I click this, what does this do? Is this plugged in? No, okay, it doesn't look like that's plugged in. But it's in the asset, so we can look at it here. AI is not the same as business value. Start with the gap. I quite like that, to be honest. For a first generation, this is actually really good. We don't have any video generation. This is probably an entire section in itself, generating video. You'll need almost like a video editor within the platform. Again, we don't know how this client actually wants to use this tool, whether they just want individual videos generated as B-roll to use with real footage, or they just want context to actually generate the footage with. We don't know. So we're going to leave that as like a phase 2, but we're just showing how we would kind of build the system out, preparing for that. So if I really don't have anything to say without going into like the last 5% tweaks. This is all really good. We can see it's working. The images are generating. We go to the approval stage. We can do approve entire package, approve and schedule. So I'm going to, I don't know what the difference is exactly. So I'm just going to ask, what's the difference on the approval page, approve entire package and approve and schedule? Because to me, they sound like the same thing. And if I'm confused doing that as the developer who's building this, a user using this tool is not going to understand. No chance of understanding, right? So we want to make sure that stuff is clear. Approves on every platform, but leaves the scheduling for later. Approves every version, immediately adds into the calendar. Okay, so we're just going to do improve entire package. We'll move to the scheduling, and it says ready to schedule. Let's hit schedule. Okay, so we need a way of actually picking a date. Okay, I just hit schedule on one of them, and it's just automatically scheduled it. Can we undo that and actually allow the user to pick a date, or alternatively show the actual calendar on this schedule page and let them click in a date to actually put it in that slot, and we can reuse the same calendar asset from the calendar tab here. So again, trying to consider how to reuse tools from different parts of development, so you're not building 2 or 3 versions of the same thing that aren't connected to each other. Something really important to try and keep in your mind when you're doing any kind of vibe coding, any kind of development. You want to reuse as many things as possible so they're all linked up in the kind of back end. Makes your systems a lot cleaner, a lot more optimized, and it's going to save you a lot of hassle in the long run, especially if you do start to try and change one. You don't have to remember to change all of them otherwise. So we're going to let this finish off, and we're going to hopefully come back to an almost completed system for this video. Looks like it's done, so we can change the slot or choose a date. It shows the existing scheduled content to avoid conflicts. Let's do the confirmation. Let's user select the time and undo schedule. So switching back over to it, we can now, for LinkedIn, choose the date. We can see all of the other posts that are currently active on the calendar. We can pick different dates, and we can select the time as well, which is great. So it'd be 13:15. I guess you can pick it down there. Probably don't need that, but for the sake of this demo, we're fine. And then you hit schedule. Great, that's done. Then you go into this one. We can see that it's now scheduled 27th of August. That's there, 13:15. Let's put another one there to see if it can handle that. 9:15, and that is done. So obviously it's not yet published. An override button to publish now. That's not too bad. I don't mind that. And then the last final step really here. Let's go. Okay, so you can see, great. We're showing both on the calendar. The final step here is to actually connect a platform that will post these onto. So you can have, there's 2 ways you can do this. You can usually connect directly via each individual API, or there's platforms out there that actually let you direct connect. So just to give an example of this. So where you've got the 5 different platforms that you would normally have to sign in, actually get the API access of each one, which can actually be quite convoluted. Obviously, if you do this, it's usually free. If you're connecting directly to each individual API, you have the platform that we've just built, your dashboard. You have to connect individually. That's usually free. These platforms, these major platforms, offer this for no cost most of the time. But if you want to make this a bit more streamlined, a bit more convenient, you can use a platform that automatically connects to your accounts with 1 or 2 clicks, and then you just have to connect to the one in between platform. So instead of you having to set all of these up, you don't have to worry about any of this. You connect to the one provider, you sign up, you usually have to pay for it. And then you like say, it will have a little button like connect to your Instagram, connect to your Facebook, connect to your TikTok. You click, you hit approve, click, hit approve, click, hit approve. And then your system only has to speak to one system at that point, which can make things a lot easier. It really depends how far you want to take this. One of the ones that I'm pretty sure is the standard is Blotato, which again, so they built it in mind to use of agents. You connect really easily, and it enables all of the features for your agents to stick to. But obviously you can see the pricing you have to pay. It's not the most amount in the world. It's actually relatively all right, but you can, just to keep in mind, connect directly to these platforms. So for the sake of this video, I'm going to start with the free trial of Blotato just to show what this can kind of look like. So we're signed up, generating API key into your free trial meeting, charge your card today. Okay, so apparently we need to pay to use Blotato, so I'm not going to do that. So what I'm going to do instead, I'm just going to connect directly. We're going to use Instagram just to show off the example. Let's figure this out, how to do it. So we're going to go to a new agent in here. I now want to connect to Instagram directly via API to post onto the platform. What's the easiest way of doing this directly without a third party? And we're going to ask our AI agent directly. Now I imagine it's just going to say they'll have a built-in Meta API connection that we'll be able to utilize here. But we're going to see how complicated it is, and if it ends up being complicated, I will just pay for Blotato for the sake of this tutorial, because they do streamline stuff a lot. But let's see what it can find directly, and then I may ask it, do some research, find actually while that is doing it, why not we just get a second agent running. I now want to connect my platform that I've just built to be able to actually publish live on all these other platforms. What is the best third-party tool to use that we can connect to via one connection that I can then sign up for, connect my social media to with like a simple click to sign in kind of features. And then we just connect to this one major platform to run all the APIs to and post to the various platforms that we're connected to. So we've got two kind of research agents running now, and we're going to just see what they come up with. Okay, both answers have came back, starting with a direct connection. Meta's official Instagram API with Instagram login. We require a professional account, business or creator. Now, I don't have this, so I don't know if I'll be able to do this on the video, but again, it guides you through the step-by-step. OAuth permissions. Meta fetches the media from a public accessible URL. Add the Instagram OAuth routes. Okay, so this is what the AI agent will do. We don't need to worry about that. So what does this involve as a user? If I'm trying to connect this account, can you just give me the pure steps that I take, not the development side of things? And then when it does that, we're going to look at the paid solution, a share. Let's have a see what they are about. What is their pricing like? Okay, so they're quite pricey, but they're considered bulk planning. So that's $149 is the minimum. Let's see. We don't need that. We don't need that. Let's try Zerino instead. It's API. Ship in minutes instead of months. One API to publish across 15 channels. So this looks a lot better. 2 accounts free to start. All right, we're going to try Zernio and get signed in. Okay, I'm using Zernio. Can you look at the API documentation and connect Instagram and LinkedIn for me? Also open up my .env local in Notepad for me to paste the API key in. We're going to let it do that. It looks like we're going to connect. Let's just do, what did we select for this post? I may just do my X, it's going to be the easiest for me to connect to. And I'm going to paste the API key in that image. In the Notepad, it just pasted for me, gave for me. Let's see what it actually instructed me to set it as. Okay, Zernio key equals, I'm going to paste that in there and close that. I'm going to authorize with X. And then we're going to, okay, great. So they give us a full page. And I'm going to set it to use that. Can you use this to actually identify the appropriate way of implementing platform sharing system? And I'm going to send that. And I'm going to let that cook for a bit. We're not going to worry about this way. We've sorted that out. That's okay. And then we're just going to, don't need that one. And we're just going to wait for this final implementation to go. And then I'm going to do a live test on X to see how this actually functions end to end. So that's going. And just to give a context, if anyone's confused of what this is, a lot of providers are now building out pages of their website that are purely formatted for AI/AI agents. It eliminates all of what I was basically talking about before, where AI, because remember, AI navigates pages via looking at the HTML, right? And so where I was speaking about this system before, where the easiest way is downloading HTML, there's a lot of extra steps that it needs to take by naturally trying to navigate pages. And now it understands where to roughly look for the things, because websites ideally are usually formatted in the same way, but it can cause a lot of problems. So it can take a lot more time. It uses up more tokens, so it's using up more of your subscription. So providers are starting to supply versions of their website that are purely formatted in Markdown, which is the format that this is called, so AI can analyze and read it in a much, much easier way. Now, this is a huge one, which I don't know if they're all done like this. That's a lot of text for it to process. But what it will most likely do is just search for keywords in it, go to that section, and then grab the text around it. That's what I imagine it will do. So we're going to let it just keep doing that and see what it comes out at. So while it's implementing, just to give some context, I've asked it to just add an X platform because we don't actually have it. And just again, for this tutorial, for speed, I'm going to just make it add one more input section in the selections of what platforms to post, just to allow X. And I've connected my account in the Zernio connection, so we're just going to use that for the testing purposes. And then finally, while I was looking at what it was doing, I noticed it said a Zernio publisher selected only in live mode. So one thing I'm going to ask is, what do you mean in live mode? Can we just, is that just a toggle that I do while running this to actually post it live for development purposes, or do you have to turn it on in the back end? And what I mean there, just to explain it, is that sometimes AI will implement to try and is trying to be safe, right? it's going to implement what they call flags, which basically prevent you from doing a live post just in case you're trying to use this dashboard for demo purposes. So you can see here, it's a server-side development toggle. Essentially, it's not actually something that we in the interface can run. So I will actually need to tell it to set it to live and then to restart the server. So I'm going to say, okay, make sure this is live for me. So I want to test this now. I've got an API key already saved in a .env local file. I don't know if it's named exactly how you named it, because I did it before you told me to name it there. So just check for it. And we're going to let that do that, because obviously I want to test it before I finish this video, and it's just hit midnight, so I want to get this done now. One thing I've noticed that it's talking about adding X to the shared platform list will make it available end-to-end. Live publishing will use an N published webhook destination. That's wrong. So what it's basically saying, it doesn't know that we've already implemented posting system with Zernio in this agent, if I'm reading that correctly. So I'm just going to say we've got another agent that's implementing the actual live posting system using Zernio. So don't worry about doing that. The other system will worry. The other agent will do the implementation properly. And the good thing about that is, even if I'm wrong and I've misunderstood what it's saying, it will understand. It will say, don't worry, that's not what I'm actually doing, and blah, blah, blah. So again, we're just going to let these finish cooking. Should be another 5-10 minutes max. And I'd imagine we have the system live. We'll do it through one final test and we'll be good to go. So the other one's just finished, and it's saying in LinkedIn, Instagram login consent screen is open. Why is Instagram's consent screen open? We're purely focusing on the X implementation here, and we're going to be using Zernio for all platform integrations. So again, really showcasing how I work with these systems. I'm asking it questions like I would if I was talking to a developer implementing these systems, right? If you're a developer yourself, you're going to be able to kind of skip a lot of this. But when I'm doing these initial development MVPs, this is how I build these systems. This is how I make sure that I do it quickly. And even when I'm not understanding, I still have at least a level of understanding where I can understand what it's asking for here is wrong. And you're only going to get that just by kind of putting the reps in and understanding, like trying to do it, getting a system built and realizing like something's broken or something's wrong. But again, if you don't understand, you can just ask the AI to explain it. It's really, really that simple. It's dead simple. So you can see here, I was getting confused with previous examples here. So it's abandoning that like connection attempt, and it's just going to switch the integration to just be through Zernio's Twitter API. Okay, so this agent actually finished, but it looks like it's overcompensated on the instruction I was given. So I'm going to say, no, I still want you to show. Oh, well, okay, I need to clarify first. So let's refresh. Okay, let's start this. So it looks like the page is down. Can you just restart it for me? Because I want to clarify what it means by dashboard shows only connect X, because we've already got it connected. I'm going to actually say we've already connected X on the Zernio platform. I just wanted the API integration connected. Is that done? So we're just going to verify what it's saying is, because sometimes, again, we're using Luna, which is the cheapest model, even though we're using it on Max. I like to use it for the speed, but sometimes it will get nuances confused like this, and that's just kind of like the pros and cons of using these different models. If you used a bigger model like Terra or Sol, it's just going to take longer to do, even on the faster speeds. And so I don't mind doing this because I like to have some level of understanding of what's going on in terms of the development for the MVPs. When we start to build out a more proper plan and handing it off to an actual development team using bigger agents, then we can switch to those bigger agents because the plan is way more kind of laid out. But when you're in this MVP stage, you still want to be quite hands-on to understand the flows, how the system's actually running, just to catch things like this that sometimes if you try and just let the AI agent handle from the get-go, even on a more advanced system, it's just not going to always get it right, that I found. So that's really why I do this stage. But let's see what it replies to here. This other system's still cooking. It's finished X integration and the scopes cleanup, so it just removed the IBM thread just so I can start it from scratch again and we can test it end to end. So we're just going to wait for these two to finish now and then do the final test. Okay, so this has said it's done and the IBM is deleted. So this is still running, but I have a feeling it's already connected. So we're just going to see what it does, right? As long as it's actually loading again. Let's see if we need to get it to relaunch. Refresh. Sometimes that gets us stuck. Okay, nope, it's still. So we're just going to say, okay, I think it's still processing the restart here. So we're just going to wait for that to finish before we actually do the final test. Okay, it fixed the issue. We're now back live. We are going to start from scratch now. We're going to do a new post. We're going to grab the IBM link. Let's just make sure that's the correct one. I'm going to refresh that page. Looks like the correct one. We're going to go back to our app, submit that source URL. We've got X selected, generate content. It's now processing. Design issues like this we can solve later. We're just going to just let it now run, and we're going to wait for it to generate. So one thing I'd probably like to do here is click in here to actually go inside the project rather than wait, because as we saw before, it went to like step 4 or 5. And it'd be nice to actually see the progress that we've got going on. Yeah, we can't see it here either. Okay, so we have to click out and back in basically. And it's not exactly updating the brief to, so it should be on the generation step here, because obviously it's saying that OpenAI is generating the selected platform variants. Again, it's a design choice. I'm not going to go into it here. As long as once it updates, it goes into it. I'm fine with that for now. Great. Okay, so it's completed all of the steps. We've got the content here, got the asset, so it's generated an image for us. Again, it's not the best image in the world. Very easy for us to kind of work on speaking to AI. As for the content, AI activity is an AI value. The gap pilot as part of simple automations activity. The intended change is better operations. So we might have to, again, prompt the system to say we want X post to be really long form, or maybe we have presets to actually generate. Okay, so it's got these. I don't even know if these work. More conversational. Does that work? Does it do anything? No. So this probably left to implement, but I like that idea. I definitely keep this in and implement this in, or even have a custom option and lets me type in a prompt that I want to actually send to the AI to regenerate. But for now, let's just test that it works. So we've got the image asset, we've got approval here. I'm going to do approve and schedule, choose date. We're going to do the 23rd now, and we're going to set it to it's 19 past midnight. So I'm going to do 0021 and I'm going to schedule. So that says it's scheduled, and I'm just going to go into this one here. I'm going to say, okay, I've just scheduled it for 2 minutes. Can you just see if that's registered in Zerino, not Zerino? Can you tell it's 1:15 for me? I'm just going to do that. One thing I like to do a lot with AI is as I'm testing, especially if there's stuff which is involving scheduling or backend systems, I'll run it through the system. And then while that's running or is ran or is queued, I'll then go to my AI agent and say, okay, can you just verify that all of the backend, all of the systems are displaying as they should, that the whatever I've queued is in there ready to go. It just saves you having to wait, even though I've only scheduled it for 2 minutes. Sometimes you'll have more complex systems or longer scheduled systems, and you just want to make sure steps are running without sitting around waiting for it to actually run. So this is a really nice little tip on how to actually do that. Okay, so it's registered in the local system, but not Zernio. And the reason is that it only saves the schedule locally, and it's called only by the manual publish path, which currently sends publish now because it's true. So it'll not automatically post in 2 minutes yet. A schedule worker still needs to forward queued items. So what do we need to do to get this to go live? Because I want to actually test the scheduling system for this. Can you make sure we're calling Zernio or pushing to Zernio on the scheduled time? I don't know which way we do this. Do we internally log when it's scheduled for and then push it directly to Zernio when we hit that time in the internal system? Or does Zernio's API support scheduling via the API, so as soon as the user hits submit, it can be scheduled in Zernio and on their system ready to post? So just to explain my kind of thought process there's 2 ways that we can kind of run this system. They both work. They just kind of depend on what you want to prioritize. We either host the scheduling on our system, and own the kind of scheduling part of it. And so that way our own internal software tracks the time. As soon as we hit a time, it then sends it to the publishing software, which would be Zernio in this sense. Or alternatively, as soon as the user hits confirm and publish on a scheduled date, we send it to Zernio straight away to handle the scheduling. The only nuances here, which I could think about, is let's say a user then comes back and wants to adjust the scheduling system. Does Zernio allow you to do that via API? I would imagine yes, but there's some services like that where you need to think about, does it allow modification of a set schedule? Does the system, the local system that you have developed, update frequently or quick enough to allow for the live system to function appropriately, right? There's sometimes you will have to build your own internal version of what the public system runs because of maybe API limits, and so you can again talk to your agent to understand the limitations here to figure out what the appropriate way of implementing these systems are, either on your side or on their side. But this is something just to keep in mind when you're building systems out like this. Okay, and we can see it's just done that fix, and I just quickly asked it to reschedule that post for 28 past midnight, and you can see it's now live in the Zernio app, and so that's now fully working, fully functioning. And we're going to wait for it to post just to again triple check that it's actually posting and it's working. It should post any second now. I'm going to refresh. And another nice thing about these modern versions of AI is that when you ask it to do stuff, it doesn't just stop, especially when it's related to like checking stuff. You can see it's actually continuously checking the API on Zernio to see that it's actually changed from scheduled to publishing. And so this is now in the process of publishing on my profile. The AI now knows, and it looks like it's just going to keep tracking, I'm guessing, to ensure that it gets delivered. And if not, we can always ask it to. So you can see I'm checking once more for the terminal result. The local record only changed to published when Zernio can deliver its webhook callback, which is basically saying our system will only say that it's published once Zernio has said it's published on their end, which is what we want it to do. We refresh this. Let's see if we have this updating as well. So this is waiting. So we probably want to maybe change that to publishing. Obviously, it's a design choice or UI choice, but it looks like it's updated now. So we just again wait for it to fully publish. Okay, let's just switch to publish. I'm going to refresh my profile. There it is. Okay, so I'm going to delete that just so it's not actually on my profile, but it didn't upload the picture. So that's something we want to mention. It didn't actually upload the picture, but it uploaded the text fine and it published correctly. But with that, I would say this is pretty much there as the V1. It proves that all of the connecting pieces are there and it's working. Our system works publishing end to end. Let's see if it's now set as published. Okay, so that's another little bug to fix. It's still set as scheduled. We need to make sure it actually calls back to say that it's published. But again, the main stuff is there. The hard part is complete. We've got the dashboard. It works. We've got the entire posting system. We've got a third-party service that handles all of the posting and the scheduling and the connection for us, which saves us a lot of time for actually relatively cheap, and the AI plugs in really well. The last bits to do here is, again, refining the UI, refining the interfaces, fixing these little bugs, building up the profiling system, and then at that point I would consider this really good as a phase 1. Thanks for watching. That's the, I don't know how long that ended up getting to. It's probably over an hour now, but it's half past midnight. I'm pretty tired. If there's any questions on that entire process, please put them in the comments. If you have a build that you want done, put it in the comments. I'll get it done in another video. I'm going to try and get one of these done every single day, going into this exact amount of detail, showing you all of the mistakes that AI comes up with, how we get around them, because I think that's one of the really key parts about using these tools. And then as we go through these builds, highlighting any especially security concerns that you need to keep into consideration, how to actually publish this live. That'll probably be another video. And then I'll probably end up having to build a bunch of like core videos based around how to publish these live, how to use GitHub, how to kind of connect to Vercel and Supabase as your like base backend and publishing systems. And then I'll be probably linking to them in between these videos, just so I'm not having to go over it over and over again. But again, if you like that, please leave a comment, subscribe, whatever they do now. I'm going to be doing one of these a day either way. See you on my next video.